Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzama, bringing you the big stories in politics and in the polity. Let's begin with the headlines. All Progressives Congress converges on the banquet hall of the State House for its national summit. The president and his predecessor to attend the session to assess the party's promises to Nigerians so far. FCT Minister Anyanwu alleges politicians may be responsible for sabotaging the closed-circuit television cameras, that's CCTV, as senators raise concern over insecurity in the nation's administrative and political capital. And President Tinubu writes his House of Reps seeks approval of 1.4 trillion naira Rivers State 2025 budget following Supreme Court decision and judgment to represent a new budget. All right, welcome. Let's begin with the story just seen that the president has actually now written to the House of Representatives seeking the approval of 1.4 trillion naira budget for Rivers State. The president reminds the House that the Supreme Court had nullified the 2025 budget presented by the suspended Governor Siminalayi Fubara. That has been an issue of controversy, and so now the president has now officially written to both chambers of the National Assembly seeking this approval as far as the appropriation bill of Rivers State is concerned under a sole administrator, given the emergency rule that is still in place in Rivers State. Let's also talk to you about and bring you up to speed what the Minister of the FCT said yesterday, Anyanwu, suspecting that some politicians in the nation's capital could be sabotaging the CCTV project that has been in the works. The minister said this during the project of budget defense session of the 2025 appropriation bill for the Senate Committee on the FCT. The issue came up when lawmakers asked about the state of insecurity in the nation's capital and the adoption of CCTV cameras across Abuja metropolis. According to Mr. Wike, CCTV can only be adopted with express permission from the presidency. In the wake of the sale of Shell's onshore oil and gas assets in Nigeria to local companies, some women in Niger Delta hit the streets, demanding that the oil giant compensate them and clean up their environment before leaving the region. The protesters, who call themselves the Kebe Tache women, gathered at the Shell residential area in Port Harcourt, and they could be seen carrying placards and making their voices heard.
Was discovered in the Niger Delta region, and today, in solidarity with the Niger Delta people and the comrades around the globe, we stand today to demand for justice for the Niger Delta region. We demand for a cleanup, we demand for a reparation, we demand for rehabilitation, we demand that the lands of the Niger Delta region be restored back to its original position, and we hold Shell accountable, and we demand that Shell should own up, pay up, and clean up their mess in the Niger Delta region. And we stand here today to say that every attempt of Shell to divert from the Niger Delta region without restoring the land back to its original state, we stand here to declare that divestment criminal in all of its entirety. And today we stand to demand justice for the Niger Delta region, justice for the Niger Delta women, justice for the Niger Delta children, and justice for everyone and comrades around Niger Delta region and in Africa. Justice! Niger Delta!
Okay, so voices, women there making their demands known, basically saying the divestment shouldn't take effect until the pollution, in their view, that had taken place over the years should be sorted out before leaving the shores to deep offshore. They're talking about Shell Company. Well, today we will be having a conversation around politics, and in focus will be the issues around the PDP. So as we speak, the APC's they're having their national summit where the president, the former president, the vice president, former vice president, as well as key stakeholders in the party will be converging any moment from now for that national summit. They are calling it Renewed Hope Agenda. The journey so far, so perhaps basically looking at what's ahead of them or what they've done so far in the 2 years that they had the mandate, to lead the country. 29th of May is going to be exactly 2 years since President Bola Tinubu took over office. How well has he done, or how not well has he done? Those are expected to be the conversations at that particular meeting. But a few days from now, which is about 5 days, the PDP will be holding its NEC meeting. It had consistently shifted and rescheduled its NEC meeting over and over. But we're hoping that they can hold the next meeting because the tenure of the National Working Committee that is there now is about, I think, will expire in December or so. And so before that national convention, there has to be NEC meetings. NEC meetings are supposed to hold every quarter in every political parties, in all the political parties. But it looks like that is a part that political parties are unable to stick to the constitution of their own parties, including the PDP. But one of the big contention has always been the position of national secretary. It looks like it's not going away pretty soon. So there are a couple of questions to be asked. I'm being joined on the program by one of the concerned persons in the PDP, as well as he's the spokesperson of the Mr. Anyanwu, the National Secretary of the party, which is also an embattled position. The Kiabo Wamate joins us virtually. Mr. Wamate, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for the privilege.
All right, so let's talk about your party. There are so many layers to it. In fact, let's start with the very first question. I'm going to, if my producer can help me bring my slides up so that I can show the people what your party law says. This is Article 36 of the PDP Constitution, talking about the National Secretary being the Chief Administrator and Accounting Officer of the party, and these are his jobs: supervise day-to-day activities and also conduct, literally managing the correspondence of the party's emails or messages or communication in that sense. That's as far as the party constitution is concerned. This is why it's a very important position. It goes on to talk about the National Secretary of the party being the custodian of the common seal of the party. So this is how critical the position of National Secretary of the party is. So let me ask you, Mr. Wamate, as far as the NEC is concerned, coming up, we are still having the issue of the National Secretary as a contentious issue. Why? The NEC is just 5 days away, and this is still an issue. Why do you think so?
Well, I want to start by saying thank you for having me and commend you for flashing on your screen the section 36, most especially 1B, because most journalists don't do that and allow some leaders to come to lie to followers via various platforms. Now, based on our Constitution, section 47(5), that stated it clearly that you may not resign. It is not compulsory for you to resign to go and contest election. And based on section 48(1), that stated it clear that if you become the flag bearer of a party does not mean you're a national officer, does not mean you have assumed dual office. And also the Supreme Court pronouncement, it is undisputable, clear that most distinguished Senator Samuel Inemeka Anyanwu remains the National Secretary and has never resigned in any time in his duty as the National Secretary to contest for the governorship of Imo State. He never resigned because the Constitution did not compel him to do so. So whoever that is claiming that Senator Anyanwu is not the National Secretary is doing that at his own peril, and is doing that for selfish reasons, because the Constitution is clear. The Supreme Court pronouncement is very clear. So that is about that. And talking about the National Executive Committee meeting, this morning I saw a notice by the National Publicity Secretary. It is very laughable and disgusting, because from what you flash on your screen, section 36, subsection 1C made it clear that it is the National Secretary that will issue notice of NEC meeting, convention, and NWC meeting. It is not the National Publicity Secretary. So any meeting conveyed that it is not, the notice for that meeting is not sent by Senator Anyanwu, it's null and void. It's invalid. It's all recognized by our Constitution. So that is the
Oh dear. Mr. Wamate was making his point.
position.
Mr. Wamate, can you hear us?
Like the Enugu State Governor.
Mr.
Yes,
Wamate, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, okay, go ahead. For a moment, we lost connection.
To be precise, the Enugu State Governor and the Oyo State Governor that are promoting this illegality and unconstitutionality. And we are calling on them to please desist and retract their step, because they are not doing the party well. Their action is telling us that they are working for the APC. Otherwise, based on the Constitution, based on the Supreme Court pronouncement, based on the fact that they cannot present a resignation letter, since they claim and have been carrying the false narrative that Anyanwu has resigned, they cannot present his resignation letter. They should just remain humble and work with him to ensure that PDP is united and move forward. Because if Anyanwu does not submit or issue the notice for the next meeting, it's as good as there will be no next meeting.
Okay, because I needed to put what the law says. So let's be clear on a few things, because what is playing out here, you are accusing the people that are promoting any other person apart from Mr. Anyanwu to be working for the APC, while they also believe that Anyanwu and the people supporting him are working for the APC. So there's aggressive mutual suspicion on all sides, which is what is the bane of this controversy. So let's talk about some of the things that you've alluded to. So let's be clear, the Supreme Court never upheld anybody's position. The Supreme Court has always said party internal issues are to be resolved by the constitution of the party, simply saying, go to your party's constitution. What does it say? Stand by it. The Supreme Court has said, as far as the issue of leadership, membership is concerned, don't come here. If it has to do with Section 84(14) of the Electoral Act that has to do with nomination of candidate, you're welcome to court. But outside that, however you want to fight your battle, fight it out by looking at your laws. So let's be clear on that. So, but you've also stated some of the things you've stated. So as it stands now, given this challenge where everybody is grandstanding on all sides, the governors have taken their position, people that are supporting Anyanwu have taken their position, what is going to be possible to help broker a resolution in that sense? Because right now, what I have noticed, I've been receiving correspondence, I've seen those correspondence when, for instance, the Anambra issue, Mr. Anyanwu has sent a letter signed by Umar Damagun, the acting chairman, to INEC on the nominated candidate. Another gentleman has also sent a letter. INEC has received all these letters, and everybody's putting out the letter that INEC received as a validation that they are the ones that INEC recognizes. INEC just received the letters. That is the position that I see INEC taking, because nobody wants to be on any side. But let's talk about what has to happen to broker peace. Else, this neck may not hold again. Mr. Wamate, please go ahead.
Thank you. Let me make some clarification. In Anyanwu's, yes, let me make some clarification. The Supreme Court upheld all Anyanwu's prayers unanimously and said it is meritorious. And in his prayers, Anyanwu made it clear that he is the national secretary. And the Supreme Court now said, okay, we don't have issue with that, but you should go and resolve that within the party. And when the Supreme Court said that, most people are fixing on the fact that the Supreme Court said that, but they did not add the part that the Supreme Court said, rely on your constitution, use your internal mechanism, and that is the constitution. They don't want to hear that part. And if you follow the constitution, Anyanwu remains the national secretary. Now, talking about the correspondence that you saw, One, if you look at the one signed by the Deputy National Secretary, it was sent to INEC on the 5th and on the 7th of this month. Because INEC failed to recognize that letter, because he is not by law the National Secretary of PDP. The PDP committee that was set up by the Governors Forum, when they held their expanded meeting,
oh dear,
which is led by the Dr. Bukola Saraki. Now, the letter that Anyanwu sent to INEC came as a result of an appeal from the Senator Bukola Saraki-led committee and the FCT minister, because Senator Anyanwu said that he's not going to sign the letter until the party leadership, those that are claiming that he's not the national secretary, confirm that he's the national secretary.
All right, Mr. Wamate, if you can hear me, I don't think you have responded to my question. I'm asking about resolution, but we're going to come back to the issue. Just a moment. Just a moment, sir, please. Just a moment.
No, the resolution, that is what
okay. Go ahead. Please go ahead.
The resolution is, and the way forward, is that a committee has been set up to address grievances led by most distinguished Senator Saraki, and that committee has made a statement that Senator Anyanwu, in their first step for resolution, Senator Anyanwu should resume as the national secretary, considering the fact on ground, he remains the national secretary. And the former governor of Benue State alluded to that fact when he appeared on a sister station, saying that as of today, Anyanwu still signs PDP document. Without his signature, PDP document will not be recognized. That is the correct position.
All right, so
the only issue we have.
Let's expand the conversation, Ms. Wamate. Let's expand the conversation a bit more. Now, the Southeast Caucus, in that sense, the leadership of the Southeast, they have taken a position. They said, look, we are giving PDPs room for reconciliation. It's either you take who we recommend in place of Anyanwu, or we will leave the party. And we've seen correspondence as well from the NWC trying to appeal perhaps to say, look, it hasn't gotten to that point. Doesn't it bother the party that one man on one position, let's use the word one position, is tearing the party apart? I remember when this thing hasn't even escalated to this point, before the gentleman in the River State House of Assembly who actually defected and maybe made a U-turn, they relied on Anyanwu's position as a contentious position when he was running for governor. So does it bother the party that one position, and people like you who are in support of Mr. Sam Anyanwu, that one position could bring PDP to its knees?
No, let me correct that statement. Not one position. Do we accept illegality and unconstitutionality because of a threat of a particular group? Because there are two stakeholders meetings that took place. One in Enugu government house, another one in Imo State. So there are two Southeast Caucus meetings that took place. But let me say this clearly. Section 47(6), at the event of vacant, have any role to play. It is the NWC in the event that there is vacancy. But in this case, there is no vacancy. Looking at section 47(3), for you to remove Senator Anyanwu, you must convey convention. 47(3) is there. That is where you remove a national secretary or a national officer through a vote of no confidence. Section 47(3) is clearly stated. A national Anyanwu was elected in 2021, October 30th and 31st, along with other NWC members. Section 47(2) stated national convention. So there is no role of the Southeast State governor to threaten. We have rejected him, and they are planning to move to Abga. So they cannot coerce PDP to accept illegality, to accept unconstitutionality.
All right, Mr. Wamate. All right, Mr. Wamte, I wish I can squeeze in one question because of the network really messing things up for us. But if I can squeeze in that question, answer in 1 minute. Just a moment, just a moment. Let's accept before...
Because of their threat.
Oh, dear. Can you hear me now? Mr. Wamte, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
My sincere apologies. The network isn't quite supportive. But if we try one more time, it's not working. It's not working, then we'll wrap up the conversation. But I wanted to squeeze this in now to say that whatever plays out at the end of this, whether Anyanwu stays or whatever decision you guys in your party make, don't you think it is important that this section of your constitution, Article 47(5), be reviewed and insist on resignation of any body content, just like we have in the constitution? If somebody is a minister, somebody's a governor, somebody's just 30 days before you have to resign to run for it. Don't you think it's time for that to be reviewed? Because the language, which is the premise here, is may resign.
Thank you very much for that. That simply explains the fact that Anyanwu has no compulsion. The operational word there is may. And now you are suggesting that PDP should start. The operational word there is may. So there was no grounds for Anyanwu to resign. And ab initio, that means he remains the national secretary. Based on this controversy this is bringing up, we can say, yes, in our convention, we can look at review some section, not only that section. I know about section 50, 4 and 7 needs to be reviewed. I am pushing for that to be reviewed. So one can also look at this one, but as we speak today, section 47(5), the operational word is may. And if it is may, Anyanwu has no compulsion to resign. So why this fight? Because if the constitution says may, that means he can sit and contest. And some of them have claimed that section 48(1) says you have to, you don't need to occupy dual offices. If you look at that section, you will see that among the offices outlined there, there was no position for candidate of the party. They say vice president, president, governor, to chairman, but not candidate of the flag bearer of the party. So these are just group of people deceiving members to enshrine their own, inordinate ambition upon PDP members.
As we don't know now who is working for the APC and who is not working for the APC. Anyanwu people are blaming the others for working for the APC. You people are blaming. In fact, there's enough blame to go around, including the coalition itself, which I may not have time to ask you questions about, because some people are saying the coalition is working for the APC, others are saying it's working against the APC. So this confusion, I'm sure we'll clear it in the nearest future. I must thank you, Mr. Dabokiabo Wamate, is the spokesperson of the PDP National Secretary and also the leader of the concerned PDP stakeholders. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's tell you again that from the National Assembly, we'll bring you more stories now, that's asked the federal government to establish a military base in Hong local government area of Adamawa State. And now this follows growing concerns over renewed Boko Haram attacks in the area and across parts of the northeast. The call came during the day's plenary after a meeting, or a motion rather, sponsored by Senator Aminu Abbas from Adamawa, and it was debated on the floor.
As lawmakers settle down for the resumption of plenary, one issue that has plagued the minds of lawmakers is the security situation in the country.
Attacks on communities.
In a matter of urgent national importance, Senator Iya Abbas, in a motion, harped on the resurgence of Boko Haram in parts of the northeast.
The neighboring local government of Gombe has as well been under Boko Haram attacks since on 17th of January 2025. 5 people were killed on the 2 attacks on the local government.
There is a resurgence of the Boko Haram insurgency to the extent that they attack our military formations, dislodge them, and cut away military equipment.
However, Senator Siriake Dixon kicks against the move, warning that the Senate might be overstepping its constitutional boundaries.
I just wanted to express that caution.
Your additional prayer is noted.
To say that the National Assembly cannot direct, that will be misconstruing. Even the president cannot, despite the fact that he has all the powers for effective administration and whatever, but he must be empowered by the National Assembly. So we have not crossed the line.
Those in support that this bill be read a second time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The Senate subsequently called for the establishment of a military base in Hong local government area.
The informal sector is usually...
Separately, a bill seeking to regulate informal employment and license private agencies is debated.
Many jobs in the informal labor market in Nigeria still experience decent work deficit. Employees in the informal sector are often seen as having no rights and are not treated fairly by their employers. All of this bill seeks to correct.
What the bill is seeking for is a private sector to regularize the employment and encourage and assist the federal government in employing more people in the labor market.
The bill is self-explanatory. It is something that we have to look at the pro and the cons.
A bill for an act to regulate and formalize the employment of domestic workers, apprenticeships, interns, and other informal sector employees, and to empower the National Directorate of Employment to issue license and monitor privately owned employment agencies in Nigeria, and for other related matters, 2025, SB 629. Second reading taken.
The Senate also raised alarm over the growing practice of chemical ripening of fruits put forward in a motion by Senator Anthony Okorie. They resolved to summon NAFDAC to deepen investigation on the matter. Aside calling for investigation, the Senate has also resolved to amend existing laws to criminalize the use of hazardous substances to ripen fruits. It also proposed stiffer penalties for offenders to serve as a deterrent, as well as safeguard the health of Nigerians. From the National Assembly, Gloria Omezuke, Channels Television News.
And that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.